What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you're listening to Liquid Carnage. Post Thanksgiving, how are you, my friend? We are into
I'm
the
good.
holiday season.
I survived. I survived the holiday, and it was a continuation. So we spent the week with my mom in Vegas, or not with my mom, in Vegas, so that we could spend Thanksgiving with my mom. And then Noreen's dad and me and her came back down to Phoenix. So he's been with us now since Tuesday last.
Mm-hmm.
So about a little over a week. And then Ricky and Janice and the family are coming on Friday. We're going to spend a few days up in Williams, and then we're coming back. And then I think that everyone's gone by the 12th of December.
Well,
So it's been about 3 weeks of, it's going to be 3 weeks of family time.
that's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of compact time.
How
Yeah,
was your,
well,
how was yours?
it was quiet. It was good. It's we're kind of like you. We're getting prepped for the holidays because we've got a little bit different holiday system than you do because we have small children in our house.
Yes.
But we will hopefully run into you this weekend when we have our annual Santa Sack extravaganza party in Williams. I know you'll be with your family, but hey, it doesn't mean we can't bump into each other in the public and have ourselves a little liquid carnage moment.
It might be Jason and the boys have to get away from Noreen and the girls, so it could be that. So
Right.
we'll see.
Well, I guess be prepared for anything. You never know what you might
Exactly.
hold. But
Yeah.
Thanksgiving was cool. It was Janice's youngest birthday on Thanksgiving Day too, so we had to celebrate her birthday. She turned 7, along with all the other things we were thankful for. So it was, it's an adventure watching a 7-year-old, a child turn 7, and the expectations of their birthday, um, as it were, because my mom is prepped for Christmas. She's ready, and like we walked into my parents' house, and the first thing the birthday girl asked was, "Where's my present?" And my mom looked at her and said, "Well, do you want me to wrap it or do you just want it the way it is?" And she said, "It's okay. I'll wait. You can wrap it." So my mom had to stop what she was doing to go wrap the 7-year-old's birthday present and bring it out to her. So it was an adventure of a day. And we learn a lot from children as we go through this experience called life.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm learning a lot as a child, but of older parents.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is a young 77, going on 78. Noreen's dad is a very young 91-year-old. But that being said, we're used to Noreen and I just being Noreen and I. So the last 2 weeks, it's been a lot of interaction with parents and
Yeah.
like children, they do require a little bit more care than dealing with like you or me.
Yeah.
But I realized that while I love my parents, I love my mom. I just realized that having a buffer is kind of a benefit for our relationship because if I didn't have that buffer, there would definitely be some frays in our relationship.
Yeah, I think that happens at all ages too. For example, we took both girls down to the aquatic center to Lake Havasu for the birthday adventure on Saturday this past weekend, just to kind of get out of the house and give them something to do because the weather's been nice, and you can never go wrong with an indoor water park in November. And those girls were by our hips the entire time, and they have a 3-story water slide at the aquatic center in Havasu, and they were both terrified to go down it until we went down the slide with them twice. And after that, we didn't have to go anymore. It was cool. They didn't need us. We could go back to the adult area and hang out. They had it from there. They didn't want anything to do with us from there until it was time to go.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, we had the same experience in Phoenix at that great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah.
They have an indoor a swimming aquatic place, and last time Jameson was here, it was August, so it was really hot, and so they went there for the day, and they had a deal where you get a free if you paid for one night's room, you got 2 days worth of bracelets to go swimming. So they rented a room for the night, never used it, but they rented a room for the night, and they just like that same thing. Like he was up and down the slides, and they one time with the parents, and then the rest of the time go have fun, don't drown.
It did not bother me a bit. Arizona State was playing Arizona in the Territorial Cup game during that time, and the only place was on was the Pac-12 network, so I could at least stream it from my phone. So I was able to sit in the sun and enjoy the Lake Havasu afternoon watching Arizona State drop a big old victory over that school down south.
I think that I learned a lot about myself with this vacation so far with my in-law and with my mom, is that at some point they're going to probably live closer to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I purposefully had a conversation with my mom because we spent a week up there. So we saw my mom probably 4 times during that week. I got to, I had maybe had a glass of wine or two, so it might have been inappropriate, but I just kind of floated the question. I said, Mom, so if and when we have to live near each other, how far do you want me to be from you? I mean, do you want me to have like 10 miles, 20 miles? Well, what are you thinking? And she said, Jason, I think that, I'd like to have you within 2 to 5 miles. But if we see each other more than 3 days a week, I just have a feeling that's going to be bad for us. And I went, Mom, that's why I love you. That is why I love you, because I realized during this week and a half so far that I love the parents, but I also need time away from the parents.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, I only say that because I realize that some of our listeners might think that I am off or might think that I'm wrong for thinking that way, because, there are some people out there that if they don't talk to their parents at least once a day, they are neglecting their parents.
Well, it's everyone's different. And you being an only child kind of changes that dynamic a little bit, because you are your mother's keeper at that point. Even though your mom's a young 77, 78 years old, when the day comes that she does pass, it's your responsibility to take care of the estate, unless she designates somebody else. Correct.
Yeah, that is true. Yes.
So now you take the EP, Tom and I. We have a very different setup. I live in the same town as my parents. I look after them. He lives up in Denver, so he's like the goofy neighbor drop-in. He comes by for a couple episodes every year, maybe once in the summer or once in the holidays, and then he's off. I'm not actually sure how much he talks to our parents. I think maybe a couple times a month, but not a lot. I see my parents all the time. I don't have to talk to them all the time, but I meet them for drinks at Chili's every week that they're in town. They actually work for me as volunteers 1 day a week, so that helps too. And it's just there's just general check-ins because they want to hang out with the girls they want to see. So I think it's a little bit different depending on the situations of the siblings.
Yeah. Okay. So that is kind of an interesting take, because Noreen has 2 brothers, but it's kind of, while the middle brother is pretty good with, like, Noreen's dad flew out to see the middle brother and spent 3 weeks. They had a great time, and it works really well because the middle brother is retired.
Yeah.
So it just works better. But even that, the majority of care, because Noreen's proximity to the dad, is from Noreen.
Yeah.
And we love having time with Ed, but even there have been times where we both just looked at each other like, oh gosh, I need the buffer zone. I need the buffer zone.
Yeah, and that's something Tom and I have talked about too. It's with me being closer. It's some of the decision making toward them that we have to make for them leans more toward my discretion will lean more toward my discretion because I'm the one that's here ultimately.
Yeah,
and I have to deal with the estates when that that day eventually does come, or anything that does happen. So it's there's a weight and balance that you have to go through when you're trying to figure out these life cycle changes.
Do you find that the relationship you have with your parents is more of just no longer parents and son, but kind of just family, friends, kind of deal? Like, it sounds like you guys do a lot of things that have nothing to do with, okay, I have to talk to you for 22 minutes so that I fulfill my son obligation, or my, it sounds like you guys are kind of, well, we'd hang out. We can hang out and have a good time, but
yeah,
it's not like a parents-child relationship.
Yeah, I think we learned a long time ago. My mom knows this, my brother knows this. I'm not sure my dad's figured it out, but my dad still sees my brother and I as children because we always will be his kids. But he
Yeah,
still
yeah.
sees us as 10 and 12 years old, and can't make decisions without his input. When in reality, we're making decisions all the time that affect our lives. And I generally don't run anything by them idea wise unless I've already made up my mind and I've already moved in that direction. Um, yeah, because that's more of a courtesy thing because they are my parents, and they do like to know what's going on with their lives. So I keep them in the loop, but I don't allow any decision making or input with that. And Tom is very good about just telling everybody after the fact of what. So we both tactically handle it different, but yeah, and I think just not telling them those things has fostered that adult friendship parent relationship.
Yeah.
And it makes
Like
it
I remember our friend Dean used to see his dad once a week.
still
Every
does,
week.
still
Still
does
does. Every yeah, okay. So
every
every
Tuesday.
once a week, every Tuesday they do a lunch. They it sounds like they go to the same place, which, can be what it is, but and then it just keeps that connection there, but it sounds like for the rest of the time, Dean's dad does his thing, Dean and Danielle do their thing, and it works.
Yeah, and that's what we do. Like we go to Chili's every so often, or every Thursday, and every so often we'll mix it up. And Tom will be here for the holidays, so we've got different plans. We're actually taking a family adventure, the five of us, to go to the Raiders Broncos game the day after Christmas. Since we don't have any kids for this particular holiday, we can do more adult oriented stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it changes the dynamic. And it's funny when you factor kids into it. You're more homebound because you do the stockings, you do the night before Christmas stuff and opening the presents. As adults, you do that stuff when you get around to it. My mom is more interested in, all right, your brother's here this time. Where are we going to dinner on Christmas Eve? And more importantly, when we go to that football game, where are we eating before, during, and after the games?
Well, hey, very legitimate questions.
And they
Very
all
legitimate questions.
and they are. So I find myself doing the research to answer these questions to make them feel at ease, because ultimately somebody has to drive, and I bit the bullet. I'm going to drive. We'll use my vehicle, put five of us in there, and it'll be fine. But that means I get to pick where we're going for food afterward, and I need to find a place that I think everybody will enjoy. So nothing Mexican, nothing seafood, because that's what we always have. I'm kind of leaning toward Greek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. There you go.
So we'll see. We'll see.
So to give you a perspective on the other side, um, our friend Paul, longtime friend of us, and he moved to Nashville, and he and his wife are living a great life. Well, they had a child, and they had a
Yeah.
child, a COVID baby. So the baby was born. I believe the baby was born in September of COVID.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, Selena's parents flew over from Nepal to where they live in Tennessee right before COVID happened, like to kind of help out and just kind of get everything situated and basically support them while they're going through her pregnancy. Um, because of the way that Nepal shut down its country, they were just able to go back um, like a month or two ago.
Oh wow.
So they were here for probably
You
13, 14 months.
oh
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that the support for Selena, since she's a full time worker, was probably nice to have the parents there, but they were in their house living with them for 14 months.
that's a lot.
And I immediately saw how different our cultures are, how I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if my mother could do that. I don't know if my mom could say, "Hey, I'm moving to Phoenix, and I need to stay with you until I find a place, and then stay with me for 14 months."
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh fuck.
I mean, you know what I mean? That's the kind of difference in culture that we're talking about here. That like they were like, oh yeah, they're living with us, and it's just part of the family. And then it was weird because as the COVID restrictions kind of freed up, then Paulive's parents, who'd never met the grandchild, are flying over, and they're going to stay like 6 months while the two parents, Selena's parents, are going back to Nepal.
So they don't even get a breather just to be their own
No,
nuclear family. They just
no, yeah. And I guess it must be a cultural thing because I I don't know if I could do it, but from their culture, everything's about family, right? The
Mhm.
Chinese are kind of the same way. I mean, everything is about family.
Oh man, so they're living a Fast and Furious movie where family's everything.
Family is everything, yeah, and they all live in, and they're all living in the house, and they're all, there's no, I don't know, maybe there is peace and quiet. Like maybe Selena and Paula have gone out by themselves or gone to see friends,
Oh,
but
kidding.
but yeah, having your parents live with you. What do you think? Your parents decide to sell both their houses, and they say, you know what, we want to stay with you until we find something else, and it
Well,
turns into 14 months. How long
I'd,
would it go before you'd say,
I'd send them to their place that needs you at that point.
oh, you got another place? Yeah, there's plenty of places you can go, mom. So unless you're just destitute, then you need to go.
It would be tight, and it would be a chore, to say the least. I don't have, my house does not have the layout to support six people like that. It would be doable, and under the right circumstances, you can make it work. But for 14 months, man, I don't know. That's a lot.
And I think that's where I thought this was such an interesting question because it probably does also depend on the family dynamic, because I'm sure even your parents would say, look, I love you, Scott, I love the kids, I love Janice, but yeah, no,
Yeah,
I need a break.
they have they have they can go out and go camping. They'd be just fine.
Yeah, yeah, and it made me feel really good when my mom said that. She goes, "Yeah, I'd love to have you close. If you could help me with things as I get older, but if I saw you more than 3 times a week, I think that would just be too much." And I went, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of how I probably see my parents maybe once or twice a week. The days they volunteer for me, I generally don't go over to that campus if I don't have to for work. It's just I can create my own schedule, and mostly I look forward to the Thursdays because after my dad had the heart attack last year, it kind of puts things in perspective. So
Yeah, true.
I can do a lot of things, and I'm busy doing a lot of things, but I will not miss that Thursday. And yeah, I think they appreciate that too. It's some time with me, and some time with them, and it's like it goes back to that friend relationship. As adults and family members, you get to kind of build that relationship and see what else is going on.
Now, I do recognize that over the course of the last half century to a century, the dynamic of family has definitely changed, right? I mean, it used to be that they would all live on the same house, and then their in-laws, the kids would go get married and live in a farm. So I'm thinking that those kind of family dynamics probably 100 years ago were a lot more common than what we would consider now. And sometimes I wonder, was it better when you had the family structure foundation to kind of help support everybody, but you didn't have quite the freedom. You basically were with the family.
Well, I think we're moving back toward that direction because the way housing prices are right now, some of the younger generation can't afford to go out and start their own lives. They have to move back home until they get life figured out because they can't afford to get an apartment or buy a house or whatnot because that's just the way the world is right now.
Yeah, I remember the only time where I contemplated moving back in with my parents was when I transitioned over to the hospital, and I was, kind of on some hard times. And I thought, well, if I have to leave Kingman for some reason, then, I'd have to go somewhere. And even then, it was kind of like, it'd probably be just until I found another job and then
Off you.
move. Yeah. Yeah. So the idea of living with my mom just did not even seem like, you know, uh, something that I could do. I remember a friend of ours was moving to Las Vegas and asked if she could stay with my mom until she found an apartment. And my mom was very generous and said, "Oh, of course, yeah, yeah." But they rarely spoke with each other, and they had a rule themselves, like, "Hey, you live your life, I live my life. If you want to eat with me and I'm having dinner, fine. Otherwise, there's no pressure." And she said they rarely saw each other. And then within a month, she had an apartment, so she moved out. But still, it's like even that kind of situation. It's like, I know I'm doing this for a short time, but living in someone else's house and feeling the pressure of having to talk to them. I mean, we had such a great episode last week about, you know, read the yard, read the driveway. You know what I mean? Like, do I have to talk to you? How much pressure do I have to talk with you? It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you go into that roommate situation like that too. It's, I've had different roommates throughout the years. Some were great, some were not so great, and some took time to really develop. I remember, God, it's been 15, 16 years ago. I had some friends that hired a kid straight out of flight mechanic school and needed a place to live at 20 years old. And I took him in, and for the first 6 months, man, we were just ships in the night. Like, it just was not. It wasn't a. We were friends, but we weren't like, I guess, good friends. But then he left for 6 months to go do whatever his job was, because he worked on slurry bombers in Alaska and whatever else. So he basically worked full, 18-hour days 6 months of the year, and was off the other 6 months doing light work.
Yeah.
But he came back, like, he grew up a little bit, and yeah, we became super tight friends for the rest of his time that was here, and it was really cool. So it was kind of a different dynamic. And then I've obviously our admin assistant JP lived with me for a time when we were first getting the show off the ground, and so whatnot, and that was fine, and that didn't really put a strain on our relationship. But he did his own thing, I did my own thing.
Yeah.
Stuff we did with the group, we just took one car instead of two, so it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I know that one of the things that I thought, if because we had talked about, if Sam decided that he had to move from Kingman for a job or something, that obviously we would contemplate having him stay here with us. But our arrangement, because of that back bedroom, makes it so that he can have his half of the house and we can have our half of the house, and um, you know keep a little bit of a buffer zone.
Oh,
But like, that situation worked out well. Some situations don't.
oh, absolutely. I've also had those bad situations where, it's time to go. It's just not, it's not something I want to be a part of anymore. And a lot of that comes with age and experience and learning how to deal with people. And
Well, I can tell you, I love you, Scott. You know that. I
yeah,
am good friends with you, and if I had to hang out with you for 2 weeks, a month, we'd make it work. But even then, it'd be like, okay, it's time to.
yeah,
You've had some fun. We've had a good time. It's
yeah.
time to go
We
to
need
my own place.
respective corners, need our own lives back.
And
Yeah.
maybe that's part of it too. Is each of us needs our own castle.
And that really does come down to, because every man needs his own castle, and you can't have your own castle when your parents are living with you, because ultimately the dynamic is your parents are the one that raised you, and unless you've got a great enough relationship to where you can say, hey, back off, this is how I'm doing it, and they can respect that, it wouldn't end well.
Well, I can tell you that Ed's been here now for a couple weeks, and it is hard because Ed is legally blind and he's legally hard of hearing. So it's not like it's not like I say, hey Ed, why don't you, if he says I want to go see some old cars, okay, that sounds great. He'll drive and go do it. I mean, he relies solely on the people who are taking care of him to facilitate that. And as we get older, we have to keep that in mind that whether we like it or not, our parents might be in a situation where, they have to live with us, but we're going to have to be more of the parents and then the children.
Well, yeah, I think eventually, the roles do shift. The roles do
Yeah.
become, the children become the caretakers and whatnot. And it's a joke we have in our house, because I don't have any of my own kids. So, I told the girls, like, you guys grow up, you're taking care of your mom and me, because I need somebody to do it. You two are here, so you guys have to figure it out.
It's good that you locked them into a long-term contract like that.
Yeah, it's like, it's
That's really good. In fact, Jen you just renewed her contract for another year until her next birthday, right?
Janice.
No,
Oh,
Genevieve.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
My mom and dad used to do that all the time. We'd have serious negotiations around my birthday, and then, okay, we'll keep you one more year, but you got to do your work, you got to do homework, otherwise we'll renegotiate. We won't renew your contract.
Yeah, yeah. We called it part of her Christmas presents. We just renegotiated the contract, so
There we go.
she has a place to live for the next year at least.
Yeah, there you go.
You
Yeah,
know.
now, are Janice's parents older, or are they young?
I think they Janice's mom had her at 16, so 15 or 16. So
What
they're
I mean is they're not like in their 70s. They're more
mid 50s.
mid 50s. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So they're
they're
not even at that point where they have to have someone take care of them.
no, they actually moved to Texas to be closer to the youngest daughter. So They've got their Janice's brother lives over in West Louisiana, East Texas somewhere. And I think her sister lives somewhere over there too. So they're going to take care of her parents.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. See, that's the other thing too, is Noreen is here and the other two brothers are in Arkansas and Oklahoma. So, they can handle 2 or 3 weeks, but ultimately primary care comes to us.
Yeah, that's it. It was up until about a year ago is when they finally moved to Texas because they were living. Her dad works for the railroad, so they've been living in their fifth wheel and camper for a while. So
Yeah.
they just did that and started. He works for different train yards, so they just started contracting, moving around in their camper, and so they packed up, moved out of here, and decided they're going to settle in Texas, which is fine. And by Janice's younger sister, so they've got younger kids. They've got her mom can do all that stuff with them over there, and they pop in here. Her mom pops in here when she gets a chance, but really it's kind of low pressure. So my parents are kind of they're relatively younger too. I don't know, middle aged, elderly. I don't know even how you explain that, but
Yeah, I mean, I view your parents as younger. Like my mom is on the cusp of going to that advanced age. Ed is definitely advanced age, although guy's got energy, man. I mean, he walks, he does everything. He can't drive, but he can, go anywhere. He's talking about wanting to go on a cruise. I mean, this guy like has the energy of probably a 65-year-old.
yeah, it's like I think I'd say my parents are a younger for their age. They're still mid 60s, so it's not a big deal. I guess late 60s.
Yeah. And I feel bad too because sometimes we've come up to Vegas to party with friends. And my mom, I'm always honest I try to be honest with my mom saying, "Hey, look, mom, I'm coming to Vegas, but I'm not really coming to see you. I'm coming to do some major partying." And so she said, "That's fine. I'd rather you tell me than, me find out that you were up here and I didn't even know." So I've gotten into the habit of just letting her know that. But I also realize, yeah, I can't invite you to some of the things we do.
Yeah,
I
no,
just can't. I just can't.
there are some boundaries that you have to respect. That even though your parents do become your friends at a certain point, there's family parties and there's friends parties.
Yeah, and my dad, when my dad was alive, I mean, he was the kind of partner. He didn't like going out to go drink. He just liked sitting on a back patio with the bottle and just shooting the shit. So that's the kind of I don't know what my relationship with my father would have been like as a 77-year-old, but I get the sneaking suspicion it would have been a lot of fun. It would have been he would have been a character to say the least.
Oh, I'm sure he would have been.
Yeah, he was a good guy like that, and he died too young. But I think as an older man, he would have been a fun. You're one of those crotchety old guys that likes to flirt with the young girls.
I I think we're all striving to be that at this point.
Hey, I just want to be somewhat as nimble as my mom and Ed, man. I mean, these guys, it puts a pretty big shadow over you if you're not taking good care of yourself to be able to, keep up with them. So
That just proves that age is nothing but a number. So, you have to keep that in mind, and you're only as old as you want to be. So, I think that's the moral of today's story is uh, you're only as young as you want to be, and you're only as young as you feel. So if you feel old and act old, my God, you're going to be old. If you feel young and act young, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Be young. Go west, young man.
well, and I think I would love to hear anyone comment about whether their idea of visitation per week is different than a parent's idea of visitation per week and how they handle that.
Yeah, so if you want to have weigh in on that, how often do you visit your parents or vice versa? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. Or if you want to tell our EP Tom that maybe he needs to check in with his parents a little bit more often, hit him up at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram.
That was good, but I love the holidays because I have to admit it was we worked up there for the week, so we were there morning, noon, and night. We worked during the day, and then we would go out to dinner, or go to a show, or do something at night, and it gave me a good idea of what would it be like to have my mom in the same city. And I have to admit, it was really kind of nice. It wasn't too much, but it was definitely enough where I really enjoyed the visit. So you know 2 or 3 times a week I could handle.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So as we move into the holidays, I want everybody to be safe. Enjoy the time. Take the time. You know, it's always a fun time of year. So go to the parties, drink the eggnog, do the things with the stuff, and eat, drink, and be merry. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to the Christmas day itself.
Very good. Appreciate it. Hey, everyone, appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid courage.